You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans! Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am Jacob Valk, and I am so happy that I get to break down playoff baseball. I don't care that the season has an asterisk on it. This is still the playoffs. And it was so great watching these games. In my opinion, no game was bad. And yes, I said that while wearing a Yankees shirt. I'm not going to start with the Yankees, though. I'm going to go chronologically. I'll start with Astros Twins and this bizarre game. I mean, this game was really just strange. There's no other word for it. First, Zach Greinke gets pulled after 4 innings. I understand he wasn't great, but he had only thrown 79 pitches. Bring him back out there for the 5th. At least that's what I was screaming at the TV. I mean, I don't like Dusty Baker. I don't think he's a good playoff manager. And I was getting those vibes again. Playoff Dusty Baker coming back. But the decision was a stroke of genius. Framber Valdez pitches 5 innings of shutout baseball. He only gave up 2 hits. I mean, Valdez got into a little trouble when he first got out there. He walked the first 2 batters he faced. But then Buxton struck out. Kepler flew out to Tucker. And Nelson Cruz grounded out. Nice play by Bregman. After that, it was really smooth sailing for Valdez. And I don't want to hear about the bottom of the 9th not being smooth sailing. There was no way that the Twins were going to come back after choking this game away. I mean, how on earth do you do that, Polanco? You have the entire baseball world rooting for you. There's no one outside of Houston that is rooting for the Astros. No one wants these guys to win. But you know what? I'm getting a little ahead of myself. If you didn't see the game, I'll set the scene for you. It's 1-1, top of the 9th. The Astros are threatening. Runners on first and second, 2 outs. George Springer at the plate. Springer hits a hot shot to Polanco. It ate him up a little bit, but any major league shortstop should be able to make this play in his sleep. All Polanco has to do is flip the ball to Luis Ariz, who's like 6 feet away from him. I understand that they may have been social distancing, but there's no excuse to not be able to throw him a baseball. The throw pulls Ariz off the bag. Polanco threw it behind him. Ariz actually did a great job of knocking that ball down so no runs would score, but you have to be able to make that throw. I'm not saying if Polanco makes that throw, then the Twins win this game, but they get out of the inning. That's just fact. And after that, God knows what would have happened next. I mean, after that, the wheels came off. Sergio Romo walked Jose Altuve with the bases loaded. Caleb Thielbar came in and gave up a 2 RBI single to Brantley. So the bottom of the ninth hits. It's 4-1 Astros. That's it. Game over. The Astros aren't blowing this. Yeah, the Twins threatened. They got the tying run to the plate, but it ended up being a game-ending double play. So look. Crazy game. Very unusual. I didn't like the Greinke was pulled, but it was the right decision. And today, Jorge Polanco needs to go 4 for 4. He needs to atone for that error. That's right up there with the Alex Gonzalez error in Game 6 of the 03 NLCS. Moving on now to White Sox Athletics. And this game really boiled down to the brilliance of Lucas Giolito. The guy retired the first 18 hitters he faced. He flirted with perfection. His control was immaculate. His stuff was brilliant. He struck out 8, he only walked 1, and he gave up 2 hits. I'll say this. It made my heart happy to see Giolito stay in as much as he did. I thought Rick Renteria pulled him at the right time. Truthfully, I thought he was going to get pulled after he gave up the single to La Stella. I'm glad he wasn't. He struck the next 2 guys out and got Matt Olson to pop out to Moncada. And he even let Giolito start the 8th. I was really surprised to see that. Now, again, right decision. His pitch count was low. Giolito got into some trouble. He didn't throw a strike to Marcana, and Jake Lamb moved him over to third on a single. So then Giolito gets the hook. In comes Evan Marshall to shut the door. Aaron Bummer helps him out, and Alex Colomé gets the save. But this was a fantastic game for the White Sox. Their young guns in Anderson and Giolito showed up, along with their veterans, Grandal and Abreu. I had 2 dark horses in the American League, the Twins and the White Sox. The Twins made me look stupid. The White Sox made me look very smart. Moving on now to Blue Jays Rays. And I'm starting to not like Charlie Montoyo. I'm starting to think that he's not a very good manager. I didn't like him starting Shoemaker, but hey, Shoemaker pitched well. 3 innings of scoreless baseball, I'll take it. Now, we all knew that he was going to have a quick hook. But after 3 innings, you go to Robbie Ray? That was your plan? Ray was terrible this year. 2-5 with a 6.62 ERA. He ends up getting the loss. He pitches 3 innings. He gives up 1 run. Not bad, but still he got the loss. A.J. Cole came in and laid an egg. Pitched a third of an inning. Gave up 2 runs. What a terrible job of managing by Charlie Montoyo. That is why the Blue Jays lost. I don't want to take anything away from what Blake Snell did, because Snell pitched great. He got the hook too early, but of course he did. He pitches for the Rays after all. They're into that sabermetric garbage. I was a little surprised to see Nick Anderson come in the 7th inning. He is their closer, and this is the new school thinking. You bring in your best reliever in a quote-unquote high-leverage situation, regardless of inning. That's all well and good, but the top of the 9th was more high leverage than the top of the 7th was. You have an opportunity to close the team out, and you have to go to Pete Fairbanks. Nothing against Fairbanks. Good pitcher. But don't you want your best reliever out there in the 9th? What you really need is numerous high-leverage relievers. You need to develop a strong bullpen, so that way when you're in that type of a situation, first and second, one out, that's when Anderson came in the top of the 7th. You can go to a really good reliever, but you still have your closer. Now, the Rays have a good bullpen, they just did it backwards. It worked yesterday. I can't kill it. At the end of the day, all's well that ends well. But it drove me a little nuts to see how Kevin Cash managed his pitchers. And it really drove me nuts to see how Charlie Montoyo managed his pitchers. Okay. Now it's time to talk about Yankees-Indians. I was 100% wrong. I'll say it. You have no idea how happy I am to say that. You know, I picked the Indians to win this series. And I said whoever won Game 1 was gonna win the series. So, if you extrapolate from that, I picked the Indians to win yesterday without overtly picking them. Maybe it's a good thing that I didn't overtly pick them, because Shane Bieber looked dreadful. He was leaving pitches up in the zone. The Yankees hitters were feasting. Aaron Judge, the first pitch fastball, bam! Out of the park. Brett Gardner was able to get to Bieber a little bit. Torres got to Bieber. Voit got to Bieber. Shane Bieber is probably going to win the AL Cy Young this year. And I'm not going to do formal award picks until the finalists are announced. But I'll tell you, Shane Bieber better be one of those finalists. And if he is, he's going to be my pick to win it. And when you're that guy, that ace, you need to go out there and set the tempo. From the second hitter on, the Indians were in trouble. You knew that wasn't going to be it for Yankees hitting. They were going to scratch out at least one more run. And you knew that Garrett Cole wasn't going to give up 4 runs. They made Bieber look like Justin Bieber. He didn't get out of the 5th inning. He gave up 9 hits. 7 runs. That's your ace? I can't even get on the Indians' bullpen for laying an egg. Who cares that Adam Simber pitched like garbage? Who cares that Cam Hill pitched like garbage? It's on Bieber. He has to pitch better than that. But you know what? I'm glad he didn't. The Yankees have been streaky all year. Up and down, in that order. It seems like they're on an up right now. And they're going to be a really tough team to beat because of that. Because once those bats get going, LeMahieu, Judge, Voit, Stanton, Urshela, Torres, hell, even Gardner. Brett Gardner gets the start over Clint Frazier. Terrible decision, I thought. The guy went 3 for 5. Aaron Boone managed this game perfectly. From starting Higashioka to starting Gardner to leaving Garrett Cole in. Boone was getting some barbs thrown at him. He proved a lot of people wrong. Now, I'll get into Cole in a minute, but the one thing I'll say is, this series isn't over. It's going to be Tanaka versus Carrasco tonight, and Happ versus Plesac tomorrow night. Those matchups do favor the Indians, but with the Yankees hitting like this, I understand it's a small sample size, but what did I say about them being streaky? They've shown that they're on an upward trajectory right now. That's all you can ask for. You don't need great pitching from Tanaka and Happ when the hitters are producing. They can bail you out. I gotta tell you, I think the Yankees have a fantastic chance of winning this thing. They got to the eventual Cy Young winner. If they did that, they can get to Carrasco and Plesac. But you know what? I've gone on long enough without talking about Garrett Cole. What Cole did yesterday is nothing short of masterful. 7 innings of 2-run ball with 13 strikeouts and no walks. That is the best start I've seen from a Yankee in the postseason in a really, really long time. I mean, there was one line that Cole said at his introductory press conference. Pressure is a privilege. He wants that responsibility. He wants to be that guy to go out there in Game 1 and set the tempo. And the odds were stacked against him. Bieber had a better year. It was in Cleveland. The midges were out. And Cole pitches a gem. That's why I said for the longest time, this guy gets it. He knows what it means to be a Yankee. When you're getting paid $36 million a year, I understand he didn't get that this year because of the coronavirus, but he signed a contract that entitles him to $36 million a year. Once you sign that contract, you're the guy. You can't afford to have a bad start. Every Yankee fan on earth was looking to this guy to match Bieber. Just give us a shot, and we can get their bullpen. That's how I thought the Yankees were gonna win this game. I did not think they'd get to Bieber. But Cole goes out there, and even though he didn't need to pitch a gem, he pitched a gem. Fantastic performance from a fantastic pitcher. And to make matters even better, Luis Sessa pitched the final 2 innings. That means that the Yankees can go to their big guns really early tonight and shorten the game. I won't have a problem with it. If they want to have Tanaka on a very short leash, go for it. Because you have Holder, Green, Ottavino, Britton, and Chapman. Throw all those guys out there for an inning each, and you should expect to win that game. I really think the Yankees are going to win it now. I was very skeptical headed into this series. I'm doing a complete 180. The Yankees are winning this thing. But now it's time to preview today's 8 games. I'll start with Reds-Braves. And this goes for both teams. They have to make the starters work. Trevor Bauer had a great season. I understand 5-4 record. I don't like that. But he had 100 strikeouts. He had an under 2 ERA, 1.73 to be exact. Incredibly talented. And Max Fried is probably going to be my pick to win NL Cy Young. 7-0 with a 2.25 ERA. He's not a strikeout pitcher. That does scare me. Because the Reds have a couple guys who are really tough at-bats for pitchers. Both teams should look to make the starter work, get deep into the bullpen. Neither one of these teams have bad bullpens, but I'd rather take my chances with the relievers than the starters. It's really simple, fundamental baseball. Make the starter work. Moving on now to Astros Twins. At the time I'm recording this, Dusty Baker has not announced a Game 2 starter. I would think it's going to be Jose Urquidy, but don't quote me on that. The Twins need to show why they are so feared when it comes to their power. They have really good sluggers. Rosario, Sano, Cruz, Buxton. Even a guy like Max Kepler. Again, they really don't hit for average, but if you have that ability to break the game wide open with just one swing, you've got to use it. As for the Astros, they kind of did it yesterday, but they did it late. They got to the bullpen, and they made the bullpen work. Romo and Thielbar did not pitch well. They're going to need to do that again. Jose Berrios is not a good postseason pitcher. Is there still time for him to turn that around? Absolutely. He's a young guy. But he's a guy who you can get to early, make him work. Maybe he's not going to give up a bunch of runs, but if he does, great. If not, you'll get into that bullpen nice and early. That's how the Astros are going to win this thing. They need to take advantage of Twins pitching. And maybe another Jorge Polanco blunder also. And look for Yuli Gurriel to get involved. Gurriel just got an extension for one more year at $7 million. Good move for the Astros. Didn't have a good year this year, but has a track record of hitting in the 290s with a bunch of home runs, bunch of RBIs. That was a good move by the Astros. Moving on now to Marlins Cubs. And the Marlins are going to need to capitalize on their scoring chances. There's no one in this lineup, with the exception of Starling Marte, that when I look at it, I need to pitch around him. Maybe Miguel Rojas, because he did hit 300 this year. But does he really scare you? When I'm talking about this game tomorrow, I don't want to be talking about the fact that the Marlins left a bunch of runners on base. That they did nothing with runners in scoring position. They have to convert on their chances. As for the Cubs, look for them to rattle Sandy Alcantara early. This is the obvious statement of the year coming up. This is the biggest start of Alcantara's life. We have no idea how he's going to do. But get to him early. Don't let him get too comfortable. Within the first 3 innings of this game, the Cubs should look to have the lead. Moving on now to White Sox Athletics. And they can just look to keep leaning on their pitching. Dallas Keuchel is a really good number 2 starter. I like Keuchel. I think he's tremendously underrated. He went 6-2 this year with a 1.99 ERA. I remember there was a time when I wanted the Yankees to sign him desperately. They can just look to ride their starter. I don't think Keuchel is going to need to be bailed out by the White Sox bats. As for the Athletics, you have to hope that Chris Bassett can match Keuchel. And that's a tall ask. It's nothing against Bassett. He's a solid pitcher, but he's nothing great. I was not sold on the Athletics going into these playoffs. They didn't convince me in Game 1. And I don't think they have much of a chance today. I think this is going to be a sweep for the White Sox. Moving on now to Blue Jays Rays. And the Blue Jays need to ride Hyunjin Ryu. They went out of their way to start him today. I don't care if he gets into early trouble. You know, it's the 3rd inning, 1st and 2nd, nobody out. Let him go. See if he can work out of it. If he can't, well, that's what you signed up for when you started him in Game 2. In this game, the Blue Jays are only going to go as far as Ryu takes them. So it's pretty self-explanatory what the Rays need to do to win this game. Make Ryu work. I'm talking 25 pitch innings. Get him out early. Make Montoyo go to his bullpen early. He proved yesterday that he's not good at managing bullpens. I don't watch Montoyo enough to have a full opinion on that, but I know what I saw yesterday, and I saw a terrible managing job. If the Rays can knock Ryu out early, it's smooth sailing. Moving on now to Cardinals-Padres. And the Cardinals are gonna need their big guns to show up here. I know it sounds cliche, but it's the truth. Paul Goldschmidt, Colton Wong, Paul DeYoung, Yadier Molina, Tommy Edman. If those guys don't show up, it's going to be a long series. Or a short one. As the case may be. I do like what they did with their rotation. I like starting Kwang Young Kim here. The Padres are not good against lefties. And Kim had a really good rookie year. Went 3-0 with a 1.62 ERA. He only pitched 39 innings. But I don't think he's going to be intimidated by the bright lights. He's pitched in Korea for a while. As for the Padres, Jace Tingler needs to have a quick hook with Chris Paddock. The Padres, in the worst way, wanted Dinelson Lamet to start this game, but he's not ready, so it went to Paddock. Paddock has not had a good year, 4-5 with a 4.73 ERA. Tingler is going to need to have him on a really short leash if the Padres want to win this game. I think Garrett Richards is going to be called upon for a few innings here. I really do. Moving on now to Yankees-Indians. And I'll repeat myself a little bit. The bats need to stay consistent. The big guns need to keep showing up. And Masahiro Tanaka needs to be playoff Tanaka. October is Tanaka time. Hopefully, Tanaka time can move back to late September. As for the Indians, it's pretty obvious they need a better outing from their starter. I know that's the obvious statement of the year, but it's the truth. I'm not going to lie to you. Carlos Carrasco is a really good pitcher. He's going to need to give the Indians length. If he doesn't, this series will be over, and I will be happy as a pig in slop. Moving on now to Brewers-Dodgers, and I really don't want to spend too much time on this. I don't think the Brewers have much of a prayer in this game. They don't have anyone that's going to be able to hit Walker Buehler. They're going to need Brent Suter to look like the second coming of, Mike Caldwell. Or Pete Vukovich. Someone like that. Someone from Harvey's Wallbangers. I really don't see how the Brewers win this game. I don't see how they win this series. The Dodgers are too talented. We know they're going to show up. They have playoff experience. This is going to be a rout. Both games are going to be a rout. The Dodgers are going to have no trouble with the Brewers, I promise you. Alright, that's going to do it for baseball. So I'll move on to a really scary situation in the NFL. The Tennessee Titans have had an outbreak of the coronavirus. They had 8 people test positive for it. 3 players and 5 coaches. We know the identities of half of the infected. Daquan Jones, Bo Brinkley, Tommy Hudson for the players, and the coach is Shane Bowen. There is a real chance that the Titans game this week against the Steelers could be moved to Monday. But that's not all. The Titans played the Vikings on Sunday. So the Vikings are in limbo here too. As it stands right now, as of when I'm recording this, they're not in as bad a position as the Titans are, but that can change very quickly. It's very possible that the NFL got really lucky, and these are the only people that get infected from this mini outbreak. But if we find out down the line that more people got infected, that's going to open up a big can of worms. Forget just this game being postponed. What about the season? I mean, if it happens once, it can happen again. I mean, we don't know how these guys got the coronavirus. We don't know who patient 0 was. But this was the risk that the NFL took when it decided not to use bubbles. Now, they got through it for, 3 weeks, but this was always a possibility. Now, the NFL has gone to great lengths to stop this from spreading with the trackers and obviously the daily tests. And they're lucky that they don't play every day. So, it's good that this was caught on Monday. They have 5 days to get this sorted out until Sunday. Now, I didn't talk about this yesterday because I wanted to wait until more information came out. But one thing that I knew from the get-go, the Titans are in trouble here. They're not going to be able to practice until Saturday. The game's on Sunday. What are you going to do? Have a full pads-on practice the day before the game? You guys are going to be exhausted. I don't know if this is possible, but maybe a few of the guys can get together at a high school field or a college football field just to try to get some reps in. I don't know if that's possible or not. I mean, you can have the meetings over Zoom. That's very easy. I mean, this isn't a death blow to the season. It's going to take more than 3 players and 5 non-players getting the coronavirus to shut this thing down. The one thing I'll say is it's probable that this wouldn't have happened if the NFL played all its games in bubbles. I mean, it does bring up an interesting point. If this had happened in baseball or something, forget about it. We'd have Armageddon. I mean, there's one thing I've seen some people say, and it's an interesting point. What is a failure in containing the coronavirus? Is it total cases? Is it a hospitalization? Or is it a death? I'm not saying don't take it seriously, but at the end of the day, this isn't instant death. More people than not who have gotten it have recovered. Yes, we've had a bunch of cases here in America, and that's inexcusable. But how should we really be measuring the response of countries to control this? Cases, hospitalizations, or deaths? Everyone looks at the cases as the big number. I'm not saying it's a mild thing or anything. People are saying that they're losing their sense of taste and their sense of smell. That's scary. But having said that, if you move past it, or, you get it and you're asymptomatic, okay, great, life goes on. The NFL season isn't in jeopardy yet. If we get a couple more outbreaks, it's possible that we could see some crazy changes. Maybe the playoffs would be in a bubble. Maybe they'd go to bubbles a little earlier. And the thing with bubbles is, there's no law that says you don't have fans and stands when you're using bubbles. If the NFL goes to a state where fans are being allowed in the stands, great. Allow fans in the stands. So look, this is a very tricky situation for the NFL. They played with fire for 3 weeks, and they didn't get burned. Now they've been burned, and we'll see how bad it gets. I don't think it's going to be the end of the world or anything, but this could be a cautionary tale. Only the coronavirus could prevent me from not talking about the NBA Finals after the MLB playoffs. Yeah, that's right. September 30th, the NBA Finals are starting, because that is normal. Well, I guess in 2020, abnormal is normal, so whatever. But this is a really interesting matchup for 2 reasons. Number one, you've got the dynamic of LeBron facing his old team in the NBA Finals. Something that's never happened before. He's downplayed it. He said it doesn't matter. I think it's an interesting subplot. But in addition to that, you have 2 teams built incredibly differently. You have a Heat team that's really well-rounded. They don't have 1 or 2 guys that you can key in on, and if you stop them, you're good. They have about 5 or 6 guys who can kill you on any given night. Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, Goran Dragic, Duncan Robinson, and Jay Crowder. None of those guys are superstars, but all of them are capable of going off on any given night. And their defense has been phenomenal. Eric Spoelstra has done a fantastic job. The zone that they run is a killer. And when you look at this from the Lakers side of things, they're built around 2 superstars, LeBron and AD, 2 of the 10 or so best players in the NBA. After that, though, it falls off. I like Kyle Kuzma, but he can't win a game by himself. Neither can KCP. Playoff Rondo needs help. Danny Green, no. Dwight Howard, even though he's playing really well right now, he can't do it all by himself. The Lakers have an underrated supporting cast, but it's not as good as the Heat supporting cast. And I'll bring up the Lakers defense just because I brought it up with the Heat. They play a great man-to-man defense. In the regular season, they allowed the 4th least points per game. I mean, you have fantastic defenders in LeBron and AD. If you're not good defensively, it would be a surprise. But here's going to be the key to this series. Zones are better against teams that shoot a lot of threes. You saw it against the Bucks. They like to let Giannis do his thing and then he kicks it out to an open shooter. The zone negated that. The Celtics were a solid shooting team in the regular season from beyond the arc. They were killed by the zone. That's not going to work against the Lakers. The Lakers don't live and die by the 3. I mean, they have guys who can hit threes. Rondo, Markieff Morris, KCP. But they don't need them to hit threes to win. The Lakers were towards the bottom of 3-pointers made, 3-pointers attempted, and 3-point percentage this year. The Heat are going to need to change up their defense here. The zone isn't going to work. And I don't like changing something like that so radically. I mean, the one thing that the Heat have going for them is the fact that they're so well-rounded. The Lakers haven't faced a team as well-rounded as the Heat. The Blazers weren't, the Rockets weren't, and the Nuggets weren't. I'm not saying they weren't well-rounded, they just weren't as well-rounded as the Heat are. So look, I think this is going to be a great series. Each team has some X factors going for them. The Heat are more well-rounded, and the Lakers are going to be able to beat the zone. But all in all, I'm going to say that the Lakers can overcome not being as well-rounded as the Heat. The zone busting is going to be too much. Lakers in 6. There are a couple other stories that I want to talk about. The first one concerns Henrik Lundqvist. He is expected to be bought out by the Rangers. And it's really sad. It's the end of an era. As an Islanders fan, I hate Lundqvist, but I also respect him. He's a future Hall of Famer. I understand no Stanley Cups, but look, that wasn't because of Lundqvist. The Rangers were just never able to put a good enough team around him. It's really a travesty when you stop and think about it. I mean, Lundqvist deserved to win a Stanley Cup. He's one of the 10 best players in NHL history to never win a Stanley Cup. I mean, this guy has the 6th most wins in NHL history. Don't you think he deserves a ring? Sentimentality aside, this was the right move by the Rangers. Lundqvist has slipped in the past couple years. His goals against has been over 3. He's been under 500. And more importantly, the Rangers have their future in net. Igor Shesterkin is going to play 50 to 55 games next year, assuming the NHL plays 82 games. And Alexander Georgiev will get into the rest. That's a really good setup. There's no need for Lundqvist. I mean, it's sad that he's not going to finish his career with the Rangers. He's going to pull an Ed Jockeman or a Martin Brodeur or something like that. But it's the right move for both sides. The Rangers want to get younger, and Lundqvist wants to win. He only has 1 or 2 years left. The Rangers aren't going to win the Stanley Cup in 1 or 2 years. Maybe 3 or 5, but not 1 or 2. I mean, the Capitals make sense as a landing spot, since they're probably going to move on from Braden Holtby. The Blue Jackets would make a ton of sense. He'd be reunited with his old coach in John Tortorella. Maybe the Bruins, if they move on from Tuukka Rask, which I wouldn't be stunned by. He did leave the team high and dry in the bubble. I don't think he's going to be traded, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. Hell, maybe the Stars. They need a goalie. I don't think they're going to go into next year with Khudobin. Maybe the Avalanche? I don't know. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. But Lundqvist is going to go to a team that can win right away. And he'll deserve it. Again, he really deserves to have his name on the Stanley Cup. The final story that I want to talk about concerns Brett Rippon starting over Jeff Driscoll at quarterback for the Broncos on Thursday night against the Jets. Now, this is a fantastic move for the Broncos, and I'm going to tell you why. The Jets' defense is so terrible that even the worst quarterback in America could look competent against them. And I'm not saying that Rippon is the worst quarterback in America. The guy's only thrown 9 passes in the NFL. But you couldn't pick a better team for him to have his first start against. I mean, who do you want him to go up against? A team like the Jets? Or a team like the Steelers? And the other thing that's good about this, they can see who should be backing up Drew Lock when he comes back. I've heard some Broncos fans saying, oh, woe is me. You know, we're going to end up with the first overall pick. We're going to get Trevor Lawrence. No, you're not. Drew Lock is going to come back in a few weeks, and you'll be fine. I'm not saying you're going to make the playoffs or anything, but you're not going to get the first overall pick. That's ridiculous. And I can guarantee you this, you're not going to look to draft a quarterback with your first rounder. Lock's your guy. You may not have liked him coming out of Missouri, but I hope you've seen enough to realize that he has what it takes to be a franchise quarterback. So look, the Broncos get to evaluate their options here. Who's better, Driscoll or Rippon? Who should back up Lock going forward? It makes perfect sense. As for how Rippon's going to do, the Jets' quote-unquote defense is going to make him look better than he actually is. But I'd still avoid starting him in fantasy. Here's the one thing I'll say, though. I think the Jets are going to win this game. I can't not pick my team when their opponent is starting a second-year undrafted free agent. But make no mistake about it. All Pop Warner football coaches should record this game and make it mandatory viewing for their teams. Because there are going to be textbook examples of how not to play football demonstrated on Thursday night. This is going to be one of the worst NFL games in history. Early show tomorrow, that means it's coming at you at noon. Until then, I am Jacob Valk saying that I haven't lost a game in a long time.